right, everybody, we are on, and I would like to open the agenda for the Georgetown Planning Board, February 14th, 2018 meeting, Memorial Town Hall. We're on the third floor. It's a couple minutes after 7. We have minutes, vouchers, some correspondence, one A&R plan, 2 public hearings, and then a planning office item. So with that, let's go to the minutes. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir.
if you will hear it, I move to approve the draft meeting minutes for January 24th, 2018, with corrections noted.
Is there a second? Second. So a motion has been made and it's been seconded to approve the draft meeting minutes of 24 January 18 as written with corrections. Any discussion? No discussion? All in
Mr.
favor?
Chairman,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
the one correction that I would have.
I was moving.
I love it, I love it, I love it.
Move it forward,
Moving forward on page 3. It would be line 122. The gentleman being identified as the president of the GAA Youth Soccer that was in the audience is being identified as Rick Umenhofer. I know Rick, I didn't see him that night. I think the person that was here was Joshua Greenblatt.
Okay, I think you're right.
Okay? That's all I have.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstain.
4 yes, 1, you're abstaining?
Mhm.
1 abstain, 3 yes, and 1 absent. Moving on to vouchers. Looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the Staples office supplies for $115.63 and the Gatehouse Media for $110.20.
So we have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and it's been seconded to approve the vouchers in the amount of $115.63 for Staples and $110.20 for Gatehouse Media.
Can I just interject here? As you and I spoke,
Yep.
you caught that. It's 100
Yep.
and 20 cents.
120 cents.
100.
110.
I'd like to revise my motion, Mr. Chairman, and reflect that.
Mine
So-
says
Typo.
150. Oh,
Yep, any more
Which one is
discussion
right?
before we go? It's $100.20. So the total is $225.83.
okay.
Seeing no more discussion, how you want to revise them?
Yeah, I'd just like to revise my motion to have that correction.
So noted.
Would you like me to say the whole thing?
Um,
Does it matter?
not necessary.
I think we get it.
I think we do. Any more discussion?
No.
No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
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 4 yes, 1 absent. Let's see, so moving on to correspondence, there's one from Rowley. Put these down at your end.
Thank you.
Sorry. Correspondence from Rowley, 2 from Rowley, 1 on OSRD, 1 on solar zoning, solar project, 1 from Town of Groveland, zoning bylaw notification of a change, and the last one, which is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Registry of Deeds letter, registry update. John, you want to just highlight that for us?
Yes, the Commonwealth would like to have our signatures again. We did this in the fall, and I did include a copy for the signature sheet, which is in there.
There it is.
A copy of last year's, so you'll be able to make reference to your terms.
Oh, good, because I have no idea what mine is. So you have to sign these twice?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
one's for the subdivisions, and the other one's for the approval not required.
I'm just gonna sign, and can you fill in the regular names later?
Mhm.
Thanks. Start these down at your end there. I think it must come back here. So we'll just, let's see, so that takes care of correspondence, and as we're finishing up those signatures on that document, next up will be the A&R plan of 33 Hamilton Terrace, and we'll just hold a second until we get these signatures taken care of.
We've got a company too.
Thank you. I just need yours too. Couple more minutes and we'll be all set. Did you sign both of those?
Yep.
All set.
That's it.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the A&R plan. The applicant will come forward, and John, if you want to just give us a quick overview and if you'd introduce yourself for the record, that'd be great.
Attorney Mitchell Croner of Groveland, representing Brian and Susan Testa, who live at 33 Hamilton Terrace. What we have here is, it's basically a lot line adjustment. The property here at 40 Lakeshore Drive was owned by Paul Farrell for probably 40 years and was recently sold to Timothy Babu. And when Mr. Babu had his property surveyed, it turned out that what the Testas thought was part of their property was really part of the Farrell property. You're probably familiar with Lakeshore Drive. Very small lots were on that original subdivision plan from the 1950s. And it's not unusual to find lot lines that need to be adjusted in that area. So Mr. Babu was gracious enough, as long as the Testas paid for the surveyor, the attorney, all the fees, he will convey, subject to your approval, this triangular piece of 1,400 square feet. What it will do is it will make the sideline conforming for the Testas. I will point out, and it would obviously have been a predecessor way before your time, but this is the line between residential A and residential B. So the Babu property is in the 15,000 square foot zone. So by taking away the 1,400 square feet, he is still left with 23,000 square feet. So he still complies with the RA zone. And as you can see in the letter from the building inspector, the reason the RA zone applies is that's where the frontage is, that's where the house is. So that's the main portion of the property, so it's considered to be RA zoning. The Testas are in RB zoning. Obviously, they don't have 40,000 square feet, so they grandfathered, but the additional 1,400 square feet does bring them up to 16,864, so it does slightly increase their lot size. So basically, this land was never, this, if you can believe it, is 4 lots on the old Lakeshore plan that has always been one contiguous parcel. And the fact that we're taking away frontage on Hamilton Terrace really doesn't affect anything because the property at 40 Lakeshore has their frontage on Lakeshore.
Okay.
So if there's any questions?
Anybody have any questions?
The only-
John, did you have anything you wanted to add? I'll come back to you, Harry, sorry.
Just to say that if the board does approve this tonight, I have Form B already executed for the
Okay.
signatures.
Harry?
No problem with it. The only thing is the building inspector called that out as residential C.
Which was a mistake.
That's Google.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, looking for an endorsement, motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to endorse the plan of land, Georgetown, Massachusetts, prepared for Brian and Susan Testa, 33 Hamilton Terrace, and Timothy Barbeau, 40 Lakeshore Drive, dated December 5th, 2017. Stamped by Vernon J. LeBlanc.
Second. Motion has been made and it has been seconded to endorse the Form A application for 40 Lakeshore Drive and 33 Hamilton Terrace as shown in the submitted plan of land in Georgetown, Mass. Prepared for Brian and Susan Testa, 33 Hamilton Terrace, and Timothy Babu, 40 Lakeshore Drive, dated December 5th, 2017. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
4 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on, we have 2 public hearings. We have 66 Parish Road, and then we have after that a public hearing for the open space discussion for the zoning bylaws. So if the applicant would like to come forward, 66. 77. Sunset Street.
Still remember that.
It's still on.
I don't remember that.
BTV.
Yeah.
Daddy wouldn't let me walk.
Looking for a, as the applicant's getting settled, looking for a motion to reopen the...
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to reopen the OSRD special permit application. We're in concept stage for 66 Parish Road, open space, OSRD.
Second, anybody?
Second, I'm sorry.
Okay, yep, we have a motion and a second to open the public hearing for 66 Parish Road. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4 yes, 1 absent. Before we go to the applicant, John, do you want to give us a...
Yes, in the staff report, you do have a letter from the applicant's attorney, Nancy McCann, who is here this evening, to go over the contents of that letter. And then we do have, I don't know if it's an updated zoning determination, but we do have a zoning determination from Les Godden dated February 8th. And
That's in the packet.
yes,
Right.
yeah, that's attachment B.
Yep.
And then, I guess for this evening, Attorney McCann's gonna go over everything that was brought out at the December meeting on this, which was the initial public hearing for this OSRD concept plan. So all of the revisions that were requested of the board have been addressed, along with some modifications of input received from the Conservation Commission agent, Steve. And I do have a handout regarding his input that wasn't available when I put out the staff report, but he made it available
Right.
for tonight's meeting.
And just to note, I know for the board that this is great having this handout.
Yes.
But this is not our jurisdiction, so it's just a reminder.
And just one more reminder, as this progresses, you'll have a site plan, likely but in the near future, that would finalize this particular project. This is just a concept plan this evening, which will merge into a full, formal site plan application sometime in the near future.
Okay, with that, just for the record, if you could introduce yourself and then
Yes.
have at it.
Thank you. My name is Nancy McCann. With me tonight is the applicant, Tom Hodgson, and the project engineer, Phil Christensen. Happy Valentine's Day. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that.
That's right.
Thank you. As John indicated, we did appear before you at the December 13 meeting and made a full presentation at that time. As you recall, this is an OSRD concept plan for 10 detached single-family homes in a condominium style. What we presented to you was the little over 40 acres on this site with 10 units proposed. And on that original plan, we had 30.18 acres of open space. And we listened to your comments. I think there were some audience members here as well, and we listened to those comments. And since that time, we've been very busy. We have met with, and Phil has met on a number of occasions with the Conservation Commission agent. Phil and I have met with the Conservation agent as well as the town planner. And we have submitted to you some revised plans that we think address all of the comments that we heard from you at the last meeting. And this is kind of an exciting OSRD plan because it really is an OSRD plan. It's and the revisions that we've made really make it even better. Just Phil will go over these in more detail, but just to hit the highlights on this, we did put some curvature in the road and adjusted the unit locations to make it more aesthetically pleasing. We increased the open space from 30.18 to 33.31, so there's an extra over 3 acres going into open space. The wildflower meadow addition is kind of interesting that Phil will describe, that again adds some pretty aesthetics to the project. We talked to Steve about doing some improvements along the frontage with Conservation Commission approval to improve the wetland, eliminate some invasives and make it a better quality wetland by adding some nicer wetland style plantings along the front. That's something that would be covered later in the site plan phase, but we did that. And the last significant, I think, change that we have made to the plan is, or to the concept essentially, is that the open space would be conveyed to the town, to the Conservation Commission. Originally, it had been planned that the open space would be retained by the condominium. I think at this point, I'll ask Phil to go through those revisions as well as some others that we have, and then I think we're at a point where we've got a good concept that could move on to site plan if the board is so inclined to have us move forward.
Okay, thank you. Yes, direct result of the meeting, first thing was to address your issue of the appearance of this wetland area along Larkin Road. I don't know if you've spoken to Steve since I met with him, but
I haven't.
he agreed that an enhancement plan would be good for this area. And in fact, when he talks about enhancement, he's talking about removing invasive species. He'll let us plant some wetland-style ornamentals, which might flower and then produce something. But he also talked about maybe even into this buffer zone here, removing some invasives there. So, but that'll be put together. We agreed as part of the site plan that we have to prepare. Part of that will be putting together a plan for this enhancement of this wetland and improving the appearance from the street. Now, one of the things, and again, we took comments from Steve, even though, as you say, jurisdictionally, it's where this whole green area is outside conservation jurisdiction, so the project was outside that jurisdiction, but we spoke to him anyway about it. And one of his concerns was proximity of the houses to the edge of that area. And he thought, well, you know, trees may grow up there. I'm gonna have a problem in the future. If a tree has to be cut down, people have to come before us. So I recommended that, well, we'll create, you know, a strip along here, called it a meadow. So we'll take down the trees or whatever else is in there, regrade it as part of regrading all of this, and plant wildflowers or wildflower mix. But he suggested further to do that down here. And one of the reasons is you really do need a mixed environment. What happens with a lot of wetlands particularly, and also areas like this will just all become forests. And if you don't have meadows, you don't have places for the songbirds and whatnot. So he kind of likes this idea. So he suggested we extend it, so down through here, this entire area will be regraded along with this. The whole thing will be stripped, and then we'll plant, again, wildflower seeds in here. And it'll be required that the homeowners association cut this once a year, this area. Now, I had that also extend this trail. He wanted us to extend some of that work beyond the limits of the trail down to the tree line that's here. Now, one of the things with conservation, if they take land like this, you can see here, this is the entire 40 acres. This is where the development is. But this walking trail can't be an easement through this property. So we couldn't have people coming down here. As Steve said, what we need to do is just have a trail that's strictly on town land. And that's why this changed a little bit, because this trail, you wanted to keep it outside the 50-foot buffer. So that's the way the trail is set up there. So part of the agreement is we would build a parking area here, gravel parking area. That's, again, within the buffer zone, and Steve suggested we put it there. And then have some parking spaces, and then people can walk down this trail and get to the trails that are in the back. Then additionally, in the back, there's a lot of trails through here, bike, motorbike trails. So we would just maintain this one on the outside, and the ones in here we would eliminate, spread some loam, a little seed, and then put tree trunks or branches or whatever we could, he said, in front of these to cut them off so people don't use that. Eventually that'll go back to be natural and just be left with a trail like that. Additionally, we added the,
When you say trail, foot trail?
yeah, it's just a foot trail, right?
And he said motorbikes was okay?
No, he doesn't want motorbikes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's why I asked
No.
you foot trail, which is fine.
Motorbikes are out.
That's what's
Passive
there
recreation.
now, and with the improvements, they won't be able to
Yeah,
to
what
get in
happened
there.
is if you go down here, there's a lot of things are rutted and whatnot, so there'd
Yeah.
have to be some improvements made to go in there with a small machine, flatten it out, spread some loam, and spread wood chips or whatever on the trail so it's walkable. So, again, the enhancement, the construction of the meadow, construction of the parking area, and donation of 33 acres of land to the Conservation Commission. We have moved some of the houses so they're a little bit farther away from the edge of this. I think the meadow is great for the developer too. I mean, it just really opens up the property for the homeowners. And I think overall, we've come up with a plan that answers a lot of issues, and I think it's gonna wind up being a good one.
Are those all single homes?
They're all single-family homes, yeah.
What sizes are they?
So wait, have you finished with your?
I think I've covered everything, the parking area, trails, enhancement, the road, we put a curve in the road, and adjusting the houses a little bit. I
Okay,
think that's it, yeah.
great. Tilly?
Single family, what sizes are you gonna build?
There'd be probably 2,400 square feet, 2,400 square feet.
And the garages, would it be underneath or
Most of them are front-load garages on grade.
front load?
Yeah. So 2 steps or so to get into the main house.
Yeah, okay. I don't see your, I think as I recall, you had like the septic is gonna be over here and the
Yes, over in this area, common septic.
common septic.
Yes.
Has that already been approved or
No, we wouldn't.
you haven't got it tested or anything or?
Yeah, there's a lot of tests out here, a lot of tests. We did test pits out through here. Sand goes down, we dug 15 feet, it's all sand. No
That could be
groundwater.
not that great a thing, all sand. Don't you have to mix it?
No, it's.
Really?
Yes, the sand, in Title V, you can, as long as the perk rate is there, the sand is fine.
Okay.
It filters it fine. It's not beach sand, I mean, it's sand and there's a little bit of
Yeah,
fines in it,
there's,
so
yeah, I would think.
It's a silty sand, you might call it, but it's easy digging, not a lot of no boulders at all. It's surprising.
So you at least did a test pit there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there, previously, there'd been test pits all through the site and percolation tests. We did some perk tests too, and they were relatively rapid percolation rates. So, but we would not design that at this point. No.
But you have the concept and you have a
Yeah.
good feeling that it's gonna work
Yeah, right, that's how we sized how big the area is
And-
from the results we had, yeah.
in the reserve.
Anything, I just want,
I'm not leaning for the private road. We run into more problems in Georgetown with people wanting to make them public. So is there any way that
This
you
is
can
not a
make-
private road. It is a driveway. It's an
You're
access
calling
driveway.
it a
through-
driveway?
It is a driveway. It's a driveway for a condominium development. It's an access driveway. It is not a
We don't
subdivision
have that in
road.
our bylaws, do
We
we,
do.
John?
Yeah.
Common driveway is no
Not
more than
common.
3.
It's not a common driveway because there's only one lot. There's only one lot, so it is not a common driveway. It is an access driveway as you would have through any condominium development.
It's interpretation. I call that a common driveway, and that doesn't meet our requirements. Oh, do you have the bylaw with you, June?
Yeah, yeah, and we'll be able to go over this in
Yeah.
particular, but there is clear reference in our OSRD that you can have a condominium OSRD and a single-family subdivision OSRD.
Right, I know that, but I mean, for the definition in our zoning for common driveway, it's 3.
just to shed some light, how wide is your driveway?
I'm thinking about it. Through here, it's 24 feet.
So Tilly, I guess the point I want to make is that the word driveway is being used, but it's being built at 24 feet wide, which is a road for all practical purposes.
Right.
So the thing that matters the most is that while it is consistent with the ordinance, it's going to be 24 feet wide, which is a road,
So they would have to meet the requirements of the road.
no.
No.
They would technically have to meet the requirements of fire safety, and that's one of the issues that Phil wants to talk about this evening also, in regard to the proposed T-turnaround.
Right,
Yeah.
but when you were talking about road, I thought you meant the subdivision road standards.
No, it doesn't.
And it does not have to
Does
meet
not
those.
have to meet that.
That's what I meant.
That's where you're gonna follow the subdivision when you build it. So it's 2. No, we're not gonna address
Not a
it at all?
subdivision.
It's not a subdivision.
One lot.
It's one lot.
Correct. It's one lot. It's not a subdivision. It's a
It's an OSRD.
condominium development with an access driveway as you would have through any condominium development.
Sort of like,
Well, I-
Pumpernickel and all the other ones at Parker River Landing and the ones at Raymond Court. Those are all private drives.
Yeah, with one or 2 homes on it, but this is 10.
Oh, no, I think if you go to
Well,
Parker River Landing, you'll see there's a number of drives, and there are a number of homes. Some of them are multifamily dwelling, well, duplexes.
So I guess to nudge this forward, this question can be further, explained when we go to the next step. Is you're not going to lose that ability to.
I think well, Larry will have to look at it, but it's such a sensitive area. That's where my concern is. The parcel is very critical, and I don't know. I'm gonna have to be convinced.
And to that point, that's why a driveway approach is more sensitive to this area than a subdivision road. So,
Yeah.
in any event, any other issues?
No, I think that's right now. No.
Okay, John, you.
Yeah, I just want to point out, because we did talk several meetings ago about the whole idea of an OSRD, but development in general. If planning has done anything wrong, they started off probably asking for roadways that were much wider than they needed to be. And that has caused so much runoff problems and, stormwater runoff out of control. So the whole idea really is to not put down any more impervious surface than what is absolutely necessary in order to make sure that fire safety needs are met.
I can understand that, John, but my concern is that with the driveway, with so many wet areas, if it goes to your driveway, you're gonna have substantial gravel. I mean, it's not that simple
Yeah.
to build, to drain it, because all it'll do is tear it up, all that water.
It will be
it's-
paved.
well, that's-
I'm
that's-
okay, so in the detail, it will be paved, right?
Time out. We'll address this level of detail at the next go-round. I think the issue has been clearly identified and is on the table. And we're not gonna resolve it right now, and
No,
I
we're
think
not,
what we
but-
wanna try to do is move this forward from this step to get to that point next time.
The only problem with
So-
that is if there are concerns that aren't resolved and don't seem resolvable, then we don't get to the next step.
Well, yeah, but
That's
we're
the
not,
only
we're at a
concern.
we're at a concept stage right now.
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
so you're on.
Do you want to?
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I wanted to just ask a couple quick questions. What is your thinking about the nature of the dwellings, of the units themselves? Identical, modern?
So there's 3 different styles.
Mhm.
If you remember, from the earlier one we came in with, that was put together, and that's roughly the style of what they'd be. And the size is 2,400, yeah.
I like it. Yeah, nice. The other question is
Four
about.
bedrooms?
Pardon?
Yes, we'd have 3 and 4 bedroom dwellings.
The other question is regarding visitor parking. And these have garages, right, indoor garages?
Yes, garages and tried to provide the driveway so you had enough room for additional parking.
On
Good-
the
good
street,
point.
on the driveway.
Yeah, we have enough of, at a minimum, 2 cars, like something like this. But, yeah, that's something to consider in the site plan, maybe to provide an additional small parking area. It's a good point.
All right.
You mentioned the Concom, you had talks with Concom as far as putting in wildflower meadows, sounds great, sounds fantastic. My only concern is, not so much with the folks, the houses that are facing south, but the houses that are facing, well, Parish Road.
North,
Road,
yeah.
whatever it is. Usually one of the things we do is we require buffering, screening from the existing neighbors across the street that have been looking there forever at nothing but trees. And now they're gonna get cut down, and the elevation might show them a little bit more once. Is there any flexibility to add a visual buffer? And I know you're giving up a lot of that land along the roadway there. But is there going to be any possibility of adding a visual buffer between
I don't think
this
you'll need it,
driveway and
because you
the
have,
street?
I mean,
Uh,
this is grown up here, and we could look at that, but I think what we can do is take pictures from here into the property and set some tall poles here and take pictures in, and you'll see that you really won't be able to see this.
And now's a great time to do it too, because there's
Right.
no leaves
The
on it.
wildflower meadow on the roadside is very
just
narrow.
15 feet wide.
And then we don't touch anything beyond that,
I
so
was
everything
concerned that
that's
you'd-
there
you'd-
now.
You'd wanna plant trees, thick trees and.
No, that's something we can't do because
Vegetation.
it's of the Conservation Commission and the wetlands. But what we are going to do, as Phil mentioned, is take out invasives and plant some better quality wetland, maybe some flowering things that'll add some buffer. But there's a good,
Certainly wetland
what's the
trees.
distance there, Phil, from
Oaks
the,
are wetland trees.
from the street? There's a fair
It
bit of
depends.
distance.
Yeah, there is, just one second. So, like from, I mean, even if you go from here over to here, you have well over 200 feet, probably at minimum 250 to the house that's over here. You get down in here, this is over 400 feet coming into here. Yeah.
Just something to keep
No,
in
but
mind.
it's a-
And
it's
this
a
is
good
all
point.
when we get, like Rob said, when we transition from concept to the real deal.
Yep.
Things to think of. I know it's not a road. I understand it's a drive. It's a driveway. We have a length of road limitation in Georgetown. I know there's a lot of people that think why it may or may not exist or why it was put into place, but I think there were valid health and safety reasons for it. Just for, without pulling out your scale or anything, could you give me a vague idea how long it is from,
Well, there's,
say, where we enter the center line of Larkin there
to
to?
the turnaround here, from here,
Well,
is 800 feet.
That's 800. That's
Yeah.
your, that's the zone.
And the zoning is 800,
Yeah,
but
and this is-
your zoning is 800 to the throat of the cul-de-sac, not to the end. That's the way it's set up.
Right, but it's also
And the
to the
throat-
center line of the throughway, so you.
Well, we've got the turnaround down in here, and that would be, drives
That's your
beyond that.
additional
Yeah,
300, 400 feet there?
yeah.
Yeah. What, and I'm assuming you're gonna get some kind of a sign off,
Right.
a blessing from the fire department for.
Yeah, by the way, this
design.
is designed for 47-foot outside radius as required by the rules, and a truck can pull up into here, back up once and pull out.
And as long as the
We've
fire
designed
department's
that.
good with that, I'm
Yeah.
good with it.
That's a 90-foot diameter, roughly?
Yeah, I guess 47-foot
Yeah, roughly.
outside radius, it's a little slightly bigger, but
Yeah, okay.
but you can come in and turn and then back up and pull out.
Where do they get their water from when they're fighting the fire?
Well, that's what we'll discuss with the fire chief about cisterns out here, if he wants cisterns.
Where are you gonna?
Because you
put
don't
them?
have, well, you could put them anywhere. I mean, you could put a cistern here, another one here, if you wanted to.
Think you have
Whether
adequate
they're 20,000, 30,000 gallons, whatever they choose, but you need something like that.
Is there any possibility of easing my mind about the fact that that is essentially a 1,100-foot dead end? Is where the Concom is now proposing, he said, to allow a
parking area.
gravel parking area there. Do you think they'd be completely adverse to allowing some kind of what appears to be maybe like a 70-foot emergency-only access in case the fire department ever had to get to the back of that last house on the road?
I would say that, let the fire chief, who's got the final call on that, have a say on this, and if but he may be fine with it the way it is. He may not be.
Well, we'll talk to the chief, and then if he wants it, we'll talk to Concom.
Gotcha. Just a concern. What about water service?
Wells,
Oh, it'll be on-site wells?
yeah,
Okay,
individual wells.
okay, great. And the only other thing that I can think of would be sidewalks.
Don't propose any. Again, it's stormwater, more runoff. Where I live, like I said, I live in West Newbury, we have 20-foot wide roads and no sidewalks, and we have walkers and horseback riders and bicycles all day long. You see more of those than you do cars. So in a neighborhood like this, I think you don't need sidewalks. You do.
How wide's the road at the narrow point there? 20 feet?
24. The road's 24.
All the way?
Yeah.
Next down at the end of the
Next,
that
next
last
down,
one?
down here.
Yeah, okay,
Where the drives are.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, scale-wise, this is 10 feet. Just
So- So there's 10 houses there, figure maybe 20 kids?
maybe,
Roughly?
Maybe.
maybe 5.
Yeah.
It depends on the.
Maybe 30.
Not anymore.
Maybe.
Not anymore.
Never know.
You look at the number of kids per household, or even family members per household is way down. I mean, it's below 4
Yeah, yeah.
in general.
So, a bus stop would be where?
If
For those
yeah,
20
you'd have-
kids? That's
they'd
a
have
half
to
a
be
bus,
out here.
right?
Yeah.
And they'd be walking down the road there.
Yep. So my grandkids are out every morning in
Possibility
a
of-
street that's narrower than that.
I can tell you, it's amazing when you, when you look at relatively well-designed condominiums that have driveway-type roads, not that they're roads, but they're driveways, and it's amazing how they were able to come up. If you just pull down like a Google view or something from, what's the name of the roads there at Parker River Landing? You wouldn't think there's space for a sidewalk, but son of a gun, you pull it off. It goes across the driveways, but it does give walkers, runners, joggers, folks with baby buggies, a place to be off of the street, off of the roadway, excuse me, the drive.
Yeah.
The drive. I'm sorry, it's.
Right.
It's
It
habit.
walks like a
Yeah.
duck, it quacks like a duck. I have trouble, it's a road.
It's
not a road.
Isn't Parker
not a
River
street.
Landing elderly housing?
Yes, but
That's a
it's
different
also
bylaw.
it's also a condominium.
Yeah.
It's a single lot. It's very, I mean, it shares some of it's
Yeah, but-
definitely, this is not senior housing, and I get that.
Right.
But I'm just using it as an example of design.
I think we're kind of balancing a few things here with this being an OSRD. And the whole point of the OSRD is to have less impact. And we can have a development like this that's going to have virtually no traffic. So the only people who are going to come here are the people who live here, right? So you can certainly walk along the street without having that added impact, that added footprint, that added disturbance of having a sidewalk. It really fits in better with the OSRD intent to limit the amount of impact.
Just thinking of the livability and the walkability.
You just have to consider too, there's nothing out here.
Yeah, there's no sidewalk on
Oh,
that street.
absolutely, and if we went by that mantra, we would never, ever, ever have sidewalks
Mm-hmm.
anywhere in any development. It's self-fulfilling. Yeah, it's a spurious argument. But duly noted. That's it. Those some of my suggestions. Just hope that when we get from concept to more detailed,
Well, back to.
so there are others
can I
that'll pop
go
up.
back to this driveway thing? Because I'm reading the bylaw here. All right, under, what is it, the page 9 here. Common shared driveways, a common or shared driveway may serve a maximum number of 3 dwelling units. No? Is this the right one? No?
No.
I don't think so.
It-
It's what you're looking
doesn't
at.
apply.
We got about 5
Yeah.
drafts.
I mean,
here.
a true driveway, when you're talking about a driveway, I think the common understanding would be that it's servicing a house. And this town allows for up to 3 on a driveway. The typical structure of a driveway is 12 feet in width.
Right. It's-
So, you know, this isn't what you would consider one of those. This is twice as wide as that. And it allows for the flow of traffic in both directions.
Which is closer to the size of our
Yeah.
roads.
Yeah.
And it's serving a single lot.
Right. If
Your
you-
common driveway rule says it's limited to 3 lots. We're
Yeah.
serving a single lot and we don't fall under that section of your regulation.
Correct, right.
And this is never to be a public street.
No, it can't be. It's not, because we're not filing a subdivision.
Right.
In order to make it a street, this would have to be a subdivision. And we're not filing for a subdivision. That's the only way you can create a street.
So, just for myself, if the next time you come back, you could bring some pictures of the existing vegetation that separates this project from the street looking in, that'd be really helpful.
Okay.
And the point being, just to be able to show us that it's really a strong buffer, even in the winter, and that would be very helpful. On that turnaround, can you remove one of those hammerheads? Do you need both?
Um, you would have to extend one farther if you didn't have both. You know, I think, you know, if you were to come over to one side more, then you had more room to back up and then be able to get you'd have to pull up and then pull this way and then out. You might be able to do that.
So here,
I'd have to.
so here's so where I'm going with that. Can you take a look at that, see if you can reduce that pavement, and in order to allow the fire chief to feel comfortable with that, please show a plan graphic that shows a turning template happening
Yeah,
on
I have
it.
that done already, yeah.
Great. That's very important for you to convince him to make it smaller. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I just give some thought between now and the next time you come back to Harry's sidewalk question. It's an interesting question, and it is, we're trying to balance, you know, it's an OSRD, and I get it. The street I live on is 16 feet wide. It's dead end, and it's probably not much over 400 feet, and there's 10 houses that access it. And it works great. There's no sidewalk. The one place where there's an issue, and it works great because people drive slowly, but it's 16 feet wide versus 24 feet wide. So this is that balancing act.
You want us to make this narrower?
If I had a magic wand, I'd say yeah, but I don't know if we can.
I don't think your fire department's gonna be too thrilled with that.
Well, we can talk about it.
I would for one entertain a narrower, you know, obviously you have to have two cars be able to travel past, but 24 feet is
It's wide.
plenty big.
Yeah.
So take a look at that, and maybe you can come back with a defense for why narrower. My one concern is on the big curve. We have a big curve where I live, and one of the things that happens is there's a house like right in the corner of the curve, so it's blind, and there are kids playing, and you can't see around the house. This isn't you guys, but this is
Right,
where I
no,
live.
I don't see that
So the house, when you're leaving, blocks your view around the corner, and you don't know if kids are playing there. And when you're coming home on the other side, you don't know if kids are playing there. So that's a little tension spot with ours. So I would say just make sure that you have good sight lines at that. And it looks like you do.
Yeah.
And maybe put in some restrictive easements on there.
Maybe not a bad idea, like someone's not gonna put a fence up somewhere or something.
Any kind of shrubbery that might.
Or a certain
do it,
height,
yeah.
and, yep, that's probably a good idea. And then my last point is, have you thought about lighting, roadway lighting at all?
We have not, what I have thought about is we've done in other places where lamps in front of each of the house is required,
Yep,
and they go on at night, you know, with a timer, and they go off.
yep.
And that's been done in a number of towns, and they like the look of that better than streetlights.
There's
So-
a pretty big dark spot there at the curve.
Yeah,
double the
there
curve.
is, yeah.
So-
Yeah, that's why I'm thinking about it, but I'm not quite
I
sure.
mean, you can combine, you know, at the major intersection, one type of light if you want, but it's nice to hear you talking about residential style lighting. I think that would be appropriate. And if you do get to that point and you are getting into the LED fixtures, do not install 4,000 K.
You will go insane.
I will, don't do it. And they have some really nice lighting styles out there that have a much warmer orangey glow that's still LED. That's very friendly. So those are my. That was it for me. So
I have one question that was brought to mind by the issue of sidewalks. Is there a, I'm not familiar with this, you guys are, but is there a different kind of solution than a paved sidewalk, a trail? I mean, it's sort of the ultimate in, permeable walk at chips or something like that.
Well, one thing I was thinking when you were mentioning sidewalks, and when you were bringing up sidewalks as well, is one of the unique features here is that this development will have immediate and direct access to the walking trails on the open space parcel. So if you want to go walking, you walk right through the walking trail right there and right there, and you hook up with the walking trail.
Can
So
you?
that's kind of nice.
That's really nice. Can you, picking up on all of this discussion, would it be possible to where you have your so-called cul-de-sac, I don't like that term, but could you put a path with the okay from Conservation Commission to connect to that trail down below?
Well, we have it.
Yeah, we have one,
I see the one up there.
that could be moved almost anywhere.
Well, no, I like the one you've got, because that
Oh, just put another
services
one in here?
where your cul-de-sac is. It's almost like you have two neighborhoods.
Yeah,
And I'm just thinking of kids and how they work, and in order to avoid all of the kids that are down at that end using that one, just a footpath, nothing
Yeah.
more. But, boy, would that not be a great place to, down one end, a quick path to connect there, you're at this end, a quick path to
we
connect
could add
there.
that to it, certainly.
Even at the end of the road.
Yeah,
Leading
really.
out to the park area,
Especially,
yeah.
keep them from
Yeah.
going through that
Did they
person's
submit
backyard.
a regular subdivision for this as well?
No, this isn't there's no subdivision of land, therefore there's no subdivision plan.
So,
Site plan
Okay.
review.
You know, one of the things
Site plan.
too is this
Site
whole
plan.
question of street or driveway is one that I think the planning board has got to, we've got to come to an agreement. Because this is a kind of development that you see all over the place. And if you can't do it in Georgetown because of some issue with streets or driveways, then it's going to really limit what we can do in the town. And then some of these are absolutely lovely, absolutely nice.
And you limit good development in a way. You're trying,
Exactly.
you have a development where you're trying to balance a lot of
Maximize the
factors.
value
Exactly.
to the community as well.
And what I would say is you can do it in Georgetown because the bylaw permits it.
I would agree.
I think that we need to kind of come to agreement on that.
So, last comment, and then I just
Sure.
want to move it on.
Sure, you know, this is something I put a lot of thought into with driveways and a lot of experience. Number one, you know, a sidewalk within a smaller development like this, you know, everybody will eventually know everybody, blah, blah, blah. There's no through traffic. You know, walking within a roadway, the bounds of a paved roadway, driveway, whatever, that's common practice probably with 90+% of development in the country. A sidewalk in this situation going out to the existing roadway network, there's no sidewalks out there. In my previous position, we were in the same boat. And when we had development take place in the rural parts of town, in lieu of actually building sidewalks, we had a sidewalk fund. Now, I'm not getting to that point on this, and I'm not advocating that because this trail system that's part of this is going to be constructed at their cost, and they're maintaining. So as far as adding overall a pedestrian feature to this thing, and it's going to be open to the public, what they're proposing really in lieu of, you know, a sidewalk, and I know that's safety, but it's also pedestrian exercise and everything else, in a well-connected trail system to the residents and for the ability of the public to access through the parking area and enjoy the 30 acres of open space. You know, that's what you're trying to do, wellness within the holistic part of the community, and they're doing their part in regard to that. That's why I wouldn't ask for in lieu of, you know, no building sidewalks to be put in a sidewalk fund. They're going over and above anything like that for the entire community, but also for this community that they're building.
And I think the only purpose for sidewalks really would be for the safety of children, if
Get 'em to the
there's a
school.
population
Get
getting
'em
them
to
to
the
the
school.
corner. And that's why I was asking if there's an option that isn't
I'll get-
asphalt, you know, that's, I don't know.
Can I
Maybe
give
there
you
is.
another, can I give you guys another example?
A
And
trail.
you'd probably all experience this in Seabrook. There isn't a sidewalk to be had. And there's a lot of traffic, especially in the summertime, going up and down those roadways. And dogs, cats, people, everybody is walking safely along those ways. And, you know, it's just, it's other pavement, it's other man-made surfaces that just isn't required for something like this. And, you know,
well, I kind of like sidewalks because of two things, is that you're most likely gonna have children in the street. And, they're gonna have bicycles, regular bicycles, not,
I haven't seen a
Jet
kid
set.
playing outside in the street in
I know,
Dangerous.
but the
I don't
little.
see
Way
kids
too
outside
dangerous to
anymore. I don't know where they've gone to, but
This is
Throw the
isolated.
bike in the back of
This-
the van, we'll drive you there.
30, 40 years ago, we were all out in the streets.
Well, that's my
Kick the
view,
can,
is that I
basketball.
would be looking for sidewalks if I had small children and
But again, you shouldn't be riding a bike on a
carriages
sidewalk.
and all their gear and stuff. When they're little,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
out
right.
there.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Okay, that was supposed to be the last one. This
Okay.
is the last one.
And I'm
We're having
directing
too much
this
fun.
not so much to these folks, but to us.
Yeah.
As we move forward with the OSRDs and we're getting more and more of these. My understanding, at this point in the process, and let's talk process here, this is a concept plan.
Correct.
If the applicant left this process right now with an affirmative, a head nod from us for a concept plan, and then at a later date, when they were talking about the definitive or the site plan review, they came back and they had something added to it like a sidewalk or not a sidewalk. But if they did add something like a sidewalk, would this board look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, that's a deviation from the concept plan, forget it, you get out of here? I can't see us saying that.
No,
I see us looking at this is the 5,000-foot view here. And from that perspective, should this even go beyond tonight?
Should what even go beyond?
What?
Well, I mean, I'm ready to, I like it. I like this.
Well, I think that's correct. I think you're jumping ahead. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Well, I'm not trying to jump ahead, I'm trying to
Well,
say.
that's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh,
I
okay.
said that was the last
Great question.
That's the last question.
Where do we go here? We
My
approve
goodness.
this?
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to point out, this is what the whole concept plan structure is all about. And this one really worked very well for the intended purpose.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So, John, for us tonight,
Yeah.
do we need to vote on anything with regards to this?
Let's have this discussion because it could be,
That we're voting to accept this
Yes.
concept plan? It's
Right.
not approval, it's just accepting the concept plan, it's,
correct. Now, do we go from doing that, taking that motion, do we go from there to formalizing that motion in the form of a written decision similar to what would be done for a site plan approval for this concept? Because this is supposed to be a special permit. If you read closely the language of the OSRD, this concept plan is technically giving a special permit for this plan to move forward for the site plan. So, you know, we really should, if we're gonna approve it tonight, and I've talked this over with the applicant, is to, for the next meeting, have the written decision for board signatures. And now, whether or not that gets recorded, I would say it technically would get recorded because we would be granting a special permit. That's what the language of the ordinance says right now, and it's not proposed to be changed without action that we'll be reviewing later tonight. So, that's where we're at.
But the concept plan approval vote is not the special permit. It's not finalized.
That's, you read the language, that's what it says. That's what a concept plan approval is, it's a
This
special permit.
language to me
The OSRD site
needs
plan
work.
is site plan, and it says this.
I'm
You
looking.
come in with a site plan OSRD, that's site plan approval, whereby the planning board is the permit granting authority. And what that means is the use is allowed by right, subject to site plan approval.
It says the first applicability, A. Any proposed development in Georgetown which would create more than 10 lots or dwelling units or is a parcel of 10 acres or more shall be required to submit a special permit application to the planning board in accordance with this law. The applicant may also submit a conventional subdivision plan at the same time in accordance with these rules and regulations. The planning board shall, in compliance with Mass General Law 48, Section 9, hold a public hearing on the proposed OSRD application and a concurrent public hearing on the proposed conventional subdivision. So, if applicable. So you told me you didn't, this is not a subdivision, but we're gonna follow all the subdivision regs when it gets to construction, will we?
No,
No, we're not.
no, because it's a.
You know what's
This
so
is,
very, very
no,
different about
you gotta,
this?
you have to read and understand this particular comprehensive ordinance, which is 15 pages long, in that it allows specifically for a subdivision OSRD or a site plan OSRD. And the site plan OSRD is a condominium, and that language is in there specifically.
And keep in mind that
But where does it
to
say
this
it's
date,
not
we
a
have never done
subdivision
it.
requirement to come in with a conventional subdivision requirement? That's where
I'll find it.
I'm, and then we're supposed to consider which plan is better. But how can you if it's not there?
That's if they come in with a conventional.
It says you have to.
Well,
No, it says you may.
If you may.
Now, this is where it is. It's in section 16552
I'm reading
B.
48.
B5. So it's on the page, bottom of page 4, section 5. And it reads, this is how it presently reads, and I'll just go through the stricken language as if it exists. The planning board may conditionally approve an OSRD definitive subdivision plan. And then it says land division plan or OSRD site plan that does not substantially comply with the OSRD concept special permit. So, I'll read that again. The planning board.
What page are you on, please? 4?
4, and it's the bottom paragraph, subsection
2?
5. It
No, I
read-
have 2 here in mine. Up at the top? I don't have 5 on
It's,
the whole page.
well, it's in the staff report for the OSRD.
Oh, on page, okay, 5 I have.
Yeah, so it's bottom, page 4.
No, it isn't.
Subsection
See, look.
That's July. I'm talking about February 14th staff report.
Well, those are drafts, aren't they? This is
The
July.
one for tonight. I'll give it to you.
Let me see.
There it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a draft that you, okay. But it says.
So John, so what we have is, you have 2 draft motions down here. You have one which is I move to continue the public hearing on 66 Parish Road, OSRD concept plan application to the 28th February 18 meeting. And then something to the effect for final action vote.
Yeah, so strike the third draft motion. I was getting carried away with my draft motions. The third one isn't necessary.
Right.
If we were to continue this for final action, say endorsement of the decision,
Right.
that would be in order for this evening. And that would be no different than what we did for Bailey Lane just recently. The board agreed to approve that final version of the plan. And then for the following meeting was going to be me presenting the approval decision for planning board endorsement.
So before we can move to, carry this for final action on the endorsing the decision at the next meeting, we need to approve this concept
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
And so we need 2 motions right now.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask a question of process, just so that everyone's comfortable? Because we have 4 people here. And this is a special permit. And just so that we have, everybody's comfortable. John, if I may. John, assuming tonight we gave our blessing to this,
Yeah.
what format would that take? That would be an endorsement of the concept plan?
Well, again, because the plans were submitted not as timely as needed for me to get a full
final report done for tonight's meeting. It's just, I just didn't have time to put the full approval decision together, okay? It just, the time was of the essence, and it just didn't work. What we could do tonight, if we want to, we could just wordsmith, or I could get downstairs and write one up, but we could wordsmith. It's as simple as this, that I move, and I'll just blurt out this, I move that we approve the OSRD concept plan for 66 Parish Road as presented this evening, and we'll get the title of the plan.
Sure.
And just incorporate that, and that the final written decision of approval shall be acted upon at the planning board's next meeting, which is the 28th of February.
Okay, good. Can I interrupt you there? I get that.
Yep,
And in other words, so then we'd sign it at the next meeting.
yeah.
At that point, we'd have a decision, but that decision, in essence, would ring a little bit hollow, because all it would say is, yeah, you've got approval for your concept plan, but you still have to come back if you want your real approval that shows all your details.
Right.
Of course.
No.
I'm
You're-
shaking my head
One
no.
person's shaking their head,
Yeah.
yes.
But
Usually
but
it's, you're supposed to sync up on that guy. It's just,
it's not hollow because of the way your regulations read. Your regulations have your special permit attached to the concept plan.
okay.
So I would change John's motion just a little bit by saying that you would make a motion to grant a special permit approving the concept plan.
Can you point out where you're, in the law, that what you're voting?
Yes.
While she's doing that, you know, one of the more important features that they have to work on, because this is only a concept plan, they have to handle all of the stormwater runoffs. Yeah, and they haven't gotten that far along yet.
Right.
So those plans are going to take time to develop, but, you know, I know Phil is gonna be busy doing that, along with other details of the plans that they haven't gotten into, because they need to get this concept plan approved. It makes all the sense in the world, because from this approval, now they can really start to design.
Absolutely.
They can really study what needs to be done.
My point, though, is that the way I read the OSRD, and I guess we might disagree, Nancy, even though the board gives a green light to the concept plan, when they see the final plan in all its details, the board still is under no obligation to approve that, as far as I read it.
That's then under your site plan process.
Under site plan or definitive, either.
Correct. This would be under site plan.
Right, yeah, and it goes either way. And I would hasten to say that when we talk about site plan, we're usually looking at one plan, because we're looking at something like a Dunkin' Donuts with a change of the traffic pattern or something like that. This won't be a site plan single page. This will look very much like a definitive subdivision presentation to us, only it will be a site plan, but it'll be multiple pages. You have a construction docs basically here. So it's not gonna be this single sheet, take it or leave it. It's gonna be very much like
Well,
a
like you
definitive,
said,
like we're used to going
you
through.
mentioned about the sidewalk, okay? If in fact they leave and they think they don't have a sidewalk on the concept plan, and we feel it should be there, they're protected. If we vote for that, there's no sidewalk on it. Hey, they don't have to do it. So now is the time, I think, for
Absolutely,
something like
Tilly.
that.
And I'm saying
Maybe
that
we
right
should
now,
vote for that, or
in
you're
concept,
not?
I can agree with what they're going for, and I wanna see them move forward, and I suspect that in the end, they're going to try to do as much as they possibly can to get everyone on this board as happy as they can be with the final product, from the fire department to everybody.
Well, that's why I'm a little into, we don't have the fire department. What else we don't have? The test pits, you didn't do that.
Yes, we did.
We did test.
So you did do that. That was approved? What else from another department that you would need? Nothing? That's it?
Concom for the work in the buffer zone.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, can I bring out an important point?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a real important aspect of this thing. a special permit, okay, is tied into the concept plan. That's what the town adopted. A special permit in this particular case is granting approval for this use,
Use.
okay? And once you do that with a special permit, now technically with the site plan approval, you're approving a use that is allowed by right, or you're approving a use that has been granted a special permit. It's like you're granting a variance. They're getting a variance granted from the ZBA, but they still need site plan approval. Well, in this particular case, the special permit granting authority allowing for this use in this zoning district, it's this plan that we're looking at right now. The site plan that will evolve from this and submitted for action is technically, legally speaking, all right, that's review by this board of a use that is allowed by right. And a use that is allowed by right is not a deniable use.
To just clarify that, John.
A special permit is
what I think-
deniable.
Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah.
what I think you're saying is that in granting the special permit, you're not granting a special permit right now for whether there's a sidewalk or not a sidewalk. You're granting a special permit that's associated with the concept plan and this use.
Right, you're,
Correct.
Which
correct.
includes the number of units?
Which includes the number of
Okay.
units and this concept plan, this rough road layout, and we approve this, done, they go back, they come back with then, the next go-round, which is, a final, approval of the, site plan. They have a site plan submission, we have a final approval.
And
And you can add a sidewalk then, you may not add a sidewalk then, you may add trees up top, you may not add trees up top, you may fix the cul-de-sac, you may not fix the cul-de-sac.
That makes
Exactly.
sense,
But
that
the
makes
site-
sense to
I
me.
think that was a very
Yeah.
good
The
explanation.
site plan
Yeah.
essentially is a visual graphic representation of the conditions of the permit
In detail, yep.
in detail. To keep
But
your
there's
analogy.
I mean, Nancy, you're an attorney, you're following exactly what I'm saying.
I think your explanation that you just gave a moment ago is spot on. That's exactly right. And it's a unique way of this bylaw is written that way. Not all towns are written that way, but you're absolutely right. But this is a special permit. It's granted as a special permit under 40A, which means we need 4 out of 5 votes in favor. It is a recordable special permit because it conditions the use. It allows us to do 10 units, detached, single-family homes, substantially in accordance with this plan. And then we have to go to the engineered plan, and that'll have Larry Graham's review and the whole, and all of the input that you have for a standard special,
So
site plan
I think
approval.
that's pretty clear for everybody at this point, is that correct?
I have one slight question, and you said 4 out of 5, it requires a supermajority, I believe.
Yes.
The special permit does. Does the site plan review require a special? No, okay, all right.
So, and then the other thing we have to clear up, for Tilly's sake. This plan that we're looking for, and one of the board members here has a problem with it. And if there's only 4 members voting on the site plan, or this special permit,
Problem.
well, it's a problem, but you may come back with a sidewalk, just to appease the nature of the composition of the planning board.
But that's not gonna, that could do it, but that's not gonna.
If
Then
in fact the
that's not
special
gonna
permit
change
is
it.
for this
It's not gonna
use,
change the position.
there's no sidewalk.
Gonna kill the
That's-
concept plan. It's over.
So wait a minute,
Oh my
so,
I thought
goodness.
I asked this earlier, if that would kill the, so would that be?
It will.
You see that as
need
a-
4 yeses.
Oh, no, I was talking about when
what
Rob
is-
was saying
let
with
me-
the, coming
let
back
me
with the
ask you,
sidewalk.
What is it that you, why would you be, I'm assuming you would vote no right now? Is that
Yeah,
fair to say?
yeah, you can assume
Okay,
that.
so why would you be voting no?
Well, I'm not
And
clear.
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I wanna try to work
Okay.
this out.
I have no objection to your questions. I'm not clear that the common driveway is in fact it's so different than our definition. I have a question there. And then I have a question about the sidewalk, that if we're going to I think that perhaps we should have a vote on the sidewalk. And I would prefer a sidewalk. So those are my two.
Those are the two.
Right off the top, and I definitely want to hear from the fire department.
Well, okay, fire department.
So that's three.
Okay.
So
So,
that's about it. I have a question mark here.
okay, so as far as the fire department, correct me if I'm wrong, as far as the fire department is concerned, this project is not gonna go ahead unless we get a letter from the fire department which says thumbs up.
Well, interestingly enough,
Is that correct?
a quick question with that. Now, let's say we did approve it in concept, the use is okay, but the fire department, for some reason, says there's no way you can engineer enough, what do you call them? Cisterns to satisfy the potential need of how much we're gonna need. And it simply can't be engineered in. You can't dig enough holes in the ground. At that point, this board is in the position that we have to agree to it? Because it's on the site plan and we have no
That's
option.
not, that's not the case. A
Why?
site plan approval has to meet the technical nature
Okay,
of all construction items.
okay.
Okay, so your
Would that would
stormwater
be
has
one of
to,
them?
your stormwater has to be properly
If
treated.
the stormwater's not done properly, you can deny the site
Yeah.
plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you
We
go.
always
It's not
deny the site plan.
undeniable.
But you can't get to that point
Right.
unless we say, yeah, the concept is okay, 10 units.
exactly.
And-
Right.
and-
Right, right.
Now, I do think the driveway, is an issue, which is why I brought it up earlier, that I think that we need to
Yeah,
figure out what that means.
that's right.
And I think John, I mean, we can have our own opinions, but I think you have a background. You've seen how this operates elsewhere.
Yeah, this
So
is,
before we jump on,
Okay.
I wanna stay put on this fire department question.
Okay.
because
I'm sorry,
yeah,
I
it's put
didn't
on the
mean to.
table.
I didn't mean to
And
interject.
what I've heard is the process is such that this project is not gonna go ahead if the fire chief does not give a letter and says this project is gonna meet all his requirements. If that is true, can you live with then, this is where we are and we don't have the fire chief's letter?
Well, like I've mentioned several times, you can't make a decision depending on another board's decision. That's not legal.
We're not,
So if you're
we're
gonna
making
say.
a decision of concept, not a site plan.
I
They're two
understand
different-
that, but you can't make any kind of a vote on the condition of somebody else. It's just not legal.
Well, we're not conditioning it. We're not conditioning it on anything.
You're not conditioning it, but you're gonna have a vote, right? You're gonna have a vote. You're looking for a vote,
Looking
right?
for a vote,
Okay,
and
so,
I'm not hung up on the fire issue because I know that I'm voting for this. Once I vote for this, if everybody voted for it, done, we move on to the next. If the fire becomes a problem, it gets denied. I'm fine.
It's
And I'm comfortable with that.
yeah, but isn't it better
Yeah.
for the applicant to find this out prior to? I mean, you
But he
want,
doesn't
you
have a
wanna,
definitive enough plan for the fire department to make a
you want this to
definitive
move
decision.
around. But if a fire, they visit the fire chief, and he says whatever, and you've gotta change his plan. You've gotta come back with a different concept.
Not a
So,
different
That's on,
concept.
that's on them. That's their risk. That's
Well,
what they're
that's,
choosing to do.
well, yeah, but
That's
we're
up to
trying to
them.
move this as
That's not our,
streamlined
that's
as
not our
possible.
position. If they wanna take that
Well-
risk, that's their call. It's not our role.
What's the risk? They either have to do it or if he changes
That's the risk.
their road,
That's the risk.
I mean, it's gonna cost you guys more money. I mean,
What
it's
you're asking them-
delaying it,
what you're asking
cost
them-
wise.
What you're asking them to do is to go from starting line to finish for a concept plan. You're asking them to have the engineering plans done.
No,
have
I'm
the-
not.
No, it falls into that camp.
No, it doesn't,
falls
because
into that
it's,
camp.
if you got a road that the fire chief is gonna say, you can't have it any longer than 800 feet.
Well, then they can't do the plan when it comes to to site plan approval. This is just to say, you can move on it. Otherwise, they go home and they go away. And
I don't feel that way.
And Tilly,
Mr. Chairman?
it also
Let's
means
move
that we
on.
can't build.
Mr. Chairman?
We can't.
I'd like to make a
build-
motion,
Could
if I
I
may?
finish my
I'm
sentence,
gonna,
if I
yeah,
might?
Sorry.
It means that we can't build this kind of development in Georgetown. If that's,
No, it doesn't.
it's exactly what it means.
No,
If we can't,
So, what I'd like to ask the applicant if they would like to continue this hearing.
I would. I would like to continue this hearing. The missing member has the opportunity to review the video.
Correct.
And hopefully will be present at the next meeting. We'll have a full board, which is fair to the applicant, I think,
Absolutely.
to have a full board.
So
Mr.
that would
Chairman.
be moved to.
I'd like to make a motion to continue to February 28th.
Time out, buddy.
Okay. Sorry, thought that was the
Well,
next
no,
step.
I was, yeah, well,
Really meeting, sorry.
come on. So, we're gonna continue this hearing to, when would be the next date, John?
The 28th of February is the next
Okay.
planning board
All
meeting.
right. So, looking for a motion.
I make a motion to continue the concept hearing the 28th
Yes, yeah,
of
February,
February.
yeah. Still be in February.
Second.
Second.
Motion has been made and it's been seconded to continue the public hearing for 66 Parish Road to 28th of February 2018. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. See you then.
Thank you.
Thank God there's a safe harbor.
By the way, Phil, the plan graphics, whether intentional or not, are perfect for this distance.
Oh, good.
They're
Yes,
not
they
too
are.
busy, they're not too little. I mean, they're perfect.
Oh,
And the
thank you.
colors are good.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the OSRD. Public hearing, looking for a motion to reopen that hearing.
Mr. Chairman, motion to reopen the public hearing for the proposed amendments to the Article 7 Open Space Residential Development Town Bylaws.
Second.
Motion has been made and it's been seconded to reopen the public hearing discussing the proposed amendments to the open space residential development town zoning bylaw. John, you want to give us an update of where we are at this point?
Yes, this is the actual formal public hearing for this set of proposed amendments.
Are
to
we
the-
opening tonight?
Tonight's,
And I said reopen, my apologies.
right,
My
we're-
apologies,
this
Mr.
is the
Chairman.
formal opening. Everything
Oh,
else,
open?
yeah.
I said reopen too, so.
I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman,
Well then, open's all set. We got it. It's
should we
clarified.
read the public notice?
Oh, yes. Who's got the public notice?
It's in the staff
Right there.
report in its
Yeah.
entirety, right there.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the public notice.
Oh, no, you can't do that.
I can do anything I want, it's whether I get a
You
second or
think
not.
you can, that's right. I got that.
I'll read the proposed, so the notice of public hearing zoning amendment for the Georgetown Planning Board. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 48, Section 5, the Georgetown Planning Board will hold a public hearing on 14 February 2018 at 7 PM in the third floor meeting room, Georgetown Town Hall, 1 Library Street, Georgetown, Mass. For the purpose of providing information, answering questions, and hearing concerns regarding proposed amendments to Article 7 OSRD, Open Space Residential Development of the Town zoning bylaws as most recently adopted. Full and complete copies of the proposed amendments to said Article 7 are available for review in office of the Town Clerk and Planning Office. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed amendments should appear at the time and place designated herein. Persons needing special accommodations should contact the Georgetown Planning Department at 978-352-5713. That was published in the Georgetown Record January 31st, 2018, and February 7th, 2018. With that,
Here it is. February 14th, right?
Yeah.
All right, here you
Here
go,
you
that
go.
paper.
Oh, okay, good. I need that sheet.
Got
So,
about 5
in
copies.
regard to the above notice and in accordance with the board discussion on the proposed OSRD amendment, at the 24 January 18 Planning Board meeting, staff provides the following comments. At the 24th January 18 meeting, the discussion focused mainly on the subject of continuous building area and the meaning thereof, as presently provided in the zoning ordinance, and the 6 references of this term found in the zoning ordinance. In this regard, it was suggested that the present definition should be amended to reflect positive terminology in defining CBA, rather than the negative tenor provided in the present definition. To address this concern, staff provides the following proposed CBA amended definition language with proposed new words shown in bold print and existing language proposed for deletion shown in bold strike through print. So it reads, I'm just gonna read the definition, continuous building area. That portion of a lot comprised exclusively of connected upland and consisting of such upland square footage / acreage equal to or greater than the minimum lot size requirement for the zoning district in which the lot is located. Said upland shall exclude any freshwater wetland as delineated per chapter 161 wetlands protection, nor any pond or stream.
Question,
Yeah, please.
I don't know why you got into this. I wasn't here at the last meeting and I would have questioned it. I was home sick. And I'm just thinking, the whole idea of the OSRD is to have less impact to the land, for the land, right? And what this is doing is beyond what the lot is. You're saying anything than the minimum lot size, which it doesn't say zoning lot size or the OSRD lot size. And then you're going to make that lot larger just so that you can meet this requirement of upland, square foot acreage. This all should be, upland and square foot acreage should be in the open space. in my
Now, can I
mind.
clarify this
Sure.
concern, if I could, Mr. Chairman?
OSRD.
Yeah, continuous building area, the definition thereof, only pertains to a standard subdivision yield plan. And that is only used to determine how many dwellings could be actually situated within an OSRD. So this is what we really do need to do, is better define, and that's what we discussed, better define what a continuous building area is relative to determining truly what the yield of lots would be for a proposed standard subdivision plan. So in this particular case we're dealing with this evening, and as Les Godden pointed out, he's the determiner by statute, and his position calls for that, determining what the yield is. He determined that there's the possibility of 8 lots within the area that's proposed for development if a standard subdivision plan was submitted. Now, with the OSRD, we know that the lots can be reduced to the size of 10,000 square feet, or they can be part of a condominium development, which doesn't have any specified square footage. It's all one lot with the dwellings located within. So this is
Which is something,
important.
John, we've never seen before.
Right.
Under OSRD, it's completely new. It's been in there since day one, but we never had to deal with it before. And it is a little
But we
bit.
shouldn't.
We
We shouldn't with the OSRD. That's my point.
Well, it's certainly in there. It has been
For
since
the
day
open
one.
space.
But this definition, Tilly, you gotta understand, this definition, okay, defines to the nth degree what has to constitute a standard sized building lot. So you do have to take out the wetlands, all the wetlands that are defined within the conservation restrictions. That's referenced in here.
Right,
And you have to have continuous buildable
Right.
area.
Right.
So you have to go from the frontage all the way to the building area, and it has to
And not
meet the minimum.
Contiguous.
No, that's different, that's different.
That's different, and that's critical. That's critical. This is saying 15,000 square feet has to be upland and whatever. Because our bylaw, continuous building area, says you can build a structure on 15,000 square feet. So in other words, you can have a 15,000 square foot structure.
No, and that's
'Cause
only for
that's
one
the
zone, that's
building.
for one zone. You do have provision in this town for, one of the zones does provide for a minimum lot size, standard minimum lot size of 15,000 square
That's
feet.
all right.
All right.
Right, and it has to, but it has to be continuous
Continuous.
building area. And the definition of continuous building area is that it has to be connected 15,000 square feet of upland. So you have to minus out all the wetland. That's when you have a new building lot within the RA district that meets the minimum lot size requirement. The other districts require 40 and 80, but they have to be continuous upland.
That's an irregular subdivision.
But this continuous,
But why is this here? You didn't get to that. Why is that there?
Why is what?
In the OSRD?
Actually, it isn't.
No, it's there because the yield, the most important part of an OSRD is to determine actually what the yield would be under the circumstances
I
of an
gotcha.
applicant applying for a standard subdivision plan. You go from there, and that would impact the entire site, minus the wetlands, right? It creates more impact, structural impact of the parcel. OSRDs are only proposed because they produce less environmental impact, great deal less. And that 50%, minimum of 50% of an OSRD has to be open space. More often, you're gonna get 60 and 70%. In this particular one we're reviewing right now, I think it's up to
75.
Yeah,
They're required for
it's
60.
tremendous.
Just a
So
quick
I wanna-
question, Mr.
so-
I'm sorry.
So just, I just want to try to stay focused and be able to check this item off. Right now, we're talking about the definition of continuous building area.
Yeah.
And that's what's in front of
That's
us
what my
right now.
question is all about. Are we proposing, John, to add this definition of continuous building area to the OSRD special permit bylaw, or are we proposing to change the definition, modify the definition that currently exists in 165-7?
Correct.
That's it.
That's where we're
That's,
going.
that's
Correct.
where I was
Correct.
next up.
And
Okay.
if I could, we just want to stick with that, okay? If I
right.
could, I'd like to offer to this board tonight 2 additional language changes, because after reading through several ordinances, rather than utilizing the word located, a lot of legalese would use the word situated.
Where are you right now?
Situated?
Yeah,
Third.
that's the 4th line down. So the first word, 4th line down, is located, and in which the lot is situated. You find situated more often than located. And then the proper reading, to go on from situated, the proper reading, said upland shall exclude any freshwater wetland as delineated per chapter 161, wetlands protection. And then instead of nor, I think it would read better,
I agree.
comma, as well as any pond or stream.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So, were those your,
Yeah, those are the only 2 changes that I'm proposing.
a change that I wanted to add to this, or that I wanted to discuss for addition, is this idea of this minimum width of land being 50 feet, that there's a dimension of 50 feet. And the point of that is so that you can't have a chunk of upland here and a chunk of upland here, and you connect it with a 10-foot wide strip of land.
Talking about the open space.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct. So I would like to see that in, where it says that, starting at the beginning, that portion of a lot comprised exclusively of connected upland with a maximum width of 50 feet, 50 feet,
The minimum.
with a minimum width of 50 feet, thank you.
Is this the appropriate place to make that for the open space change, or there is?
For continuous building area. The definition,
Are you talking about continuous building area, or are you
We on
talking
the same
about
page.
I'm saying,
connectivity in all the open space areas, where 50 feet is the minimum to connect the open space areas?
I'm not, no, it's not the open space I'm interested
Oh,
in,
okay.
it's the yield plan. I don't think the intent of a yield plan is someone can say, look, I can on this project, claim these 2 parcels as one giant parcel when it's only connected by a 10-foot
3-foot
wide
strip.
strip.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And so it would affect the yield plan, it would make it, they could not claim that.
And we can change continuous building area to fix that.
Now, I
What do you
could,
think to that?
well, I could point out too that we do have presently a definition for lot, and I included that on page 3 of the staff report. And that does make reference to width,
It's lot, a parcel.
minimum area and width, it's page 3, paragraph
Lot
3.
Less than a minimum area and width required of this chapter.
Yeah, and when it says of this chapter, that's referring to the entire zoning ordinance. And so within the zoning ordinance already, there is a width provision.
Of 50 feet?
I believe it is 50 feet,
Okay.
but, you know, it's a minimum lot width.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that, okay, so I don't know, so that goes into this definition of lot.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily connected to when someone's looking at continuous building area, is it?
No, so what we could do is, again, we could make reference in this new definition that's being proposed for continuous, so that, that portion of a lot comprised exclusively of connected upland and consisting of such upland square footage acreage equal to or greater than the minimum lot size required for the zoning district in which the lot is situated. So within that sentence, we need to fit in width, the required width.
With a minimum width of 50,
Yeah.
required,
Yeah.
the minimum width of 50 feet. That portion of the lot comprised exclusively of connected uplands, with
Having
having a minimum width of 50 feet.
Having a
minimum
minimum-
width of 50 feet and consisting.
Yeah,
How does
That
that work in the
works for me.
RA?
And where is that
Well, this
located?
is-
On hitting the same
This is
page?
for a yield plan. Again, this is a definition that's used for the yield.
You're changing the definition of CBA for everything here. This is gonna go to 165.7.
however, all we're doing is changing the definition. We're not changing the name, the terminology, the 3 words. The 3 words are going to still carry out. They're going to be associated, though, with this new amended definition, which is far superior to what presently
To the
exists.
existing, yeah, anything.
Yeah, it's just, it's better, it's easier to interpret for the interpreter.
My only thought is, in the RA, the width of some of the lots isn't even 50 feet.
Well,
You can have a 5,000 square foot lot
I think you have to have
with frontage.
Minimum frontage is,
What is minimum frontage in RA?
I don't know.
No, that doesn't come into
But I
it,
don't think-
Harry, because those are
Well, yeah, but if you-
pre-existing. Those lots
Yeah,
are
those are
already-
pre-existing. So even with pre-existing, you have to meet present-day minimum setback requirements.
Right,
Right, and you'll have to meet
If-
50-foot width.
yeah. No, you don't even have to address that.
If we,
No, because say you,
Okay,
say you found a 5,000 square foot lot in town, you know, and it had water, access to water. You have to put that septic that's equal to handling the septic needs of the proposed house. You still have to meet the setback requirements for that lot, otherwise you have to seek a variance.
right, but it's,
Minimum lot requirements for RA,
15,000.
it's 100-foot depth and 125-foot frontage.
okay,
Yeah.
So it's far in excess.
okay, we're all right there then.
Yeah.
It was a good question, but I think we are okay.
I have another question, that it appears that I don't see the cottage bylaw in here.
No,
So
we didn't,
before-
we're
before-
gonna
so-
get to that later.
So I appreciate that, but before we leave this item,
Yeah.
are we all in agreement on this definition of continuous building area for now?
Did you put, is this where you were putting the 50-foot wide?
Yeah.
Right there?
Yes, up in here.
Oh, up in there, okay.
Right at the end,
Yep.
right at the end, right?
No, it reads that portion of a lot comprised exclusively of connected upland, and then it was plugged in there, and how did you
Okay.
word it, John?
Yeah, so connected upland, having a minimum width of 50 feet and consisting of such upland square footage area. So just-
Minimum width, 50 feet. That was a good way of wording it.
Okay.
Okay. So that takes care of that item. Is there another item on this that we need to address right for tonight? John?
Yeah, I just wanted to, remember we talked about the steepness, this slope's greater than 25%.
Yep.
And we don't have to include that in the definition of continuous building area. We don't have to include it in the proposed chart.
Why?
Because within the OSRD language specific to section 16551A.
Yep, that identifying areas?
Yeah.
Yep.
So potential developable areas already delete from development, such as steep slopes in parentheses, typically greater than 25%. So within a proposed OSRD, already there's a provision that would eliminate such steep slopes from being considered as part of the developable area.
Where does it say that? I mean, I'm reading it.
In bold print, right in the middle.
So I see that, such as
Section
steep
2.
slopes. But
Yeah.
where does it say, though, that that is not part of?
In the entirety of that subsection 1, step 1, identifying conservation areas, the applicant shall identify preservation land by 2 steps. 1, primary conservation areas. Primary conservation areas are site features that are protected by federal, state, and local laws such as wetlands, wetland buffers, river areas, blah, 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 flood zones, and
Okay,
then
there it is.
secondary
So-
conservation areas.
Okay, so if you come up from the bottom of page 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, to the 5th line,
Yeah.
I think this is what I was looking for. It says, "The areas that do not qualify as primary or secondary conservation areas as agreed to by the discretion of the planning board." So that's that 25% mentioned right
Yeah,
above.
and I bolded that,
Yeah.
too, yeah.
Define the potential, these areas do not qualify. The areas that do not qualify as primary or secondary conservation. So, what that's saying to me is, if it's primary or secondary conservation area, it's not considered
You shouldn't be showing a house on it.
correct.
Right.
Correct, that's what that says to me. Is that, okay.
And that, and that's the paragraph
Okay, all right.
that I thought that you should also have soil testing for the drainage, for the septic area. I thought that also should be in there when you do compiling the yield. Because if you can't, that
This is the
determines the
design
lots.
process, though.
Typically, what they do is they use just soils information, USGS soils mapping, so they don't have to go out there and do test pits in the beginning, and they make assumptions based on, general soils mapping.
Yeah, the only time you have to worry is when you see test pit, and then they do that, so use the, the soils profile.
Yeah.
They're not using the soil log.
Well, I've seen that in a lot of
Not that would
wording
ever happen.
that in this area.
Yeah, but that is under the Board of Health, so,
That's right, and
They-
it
Oh, no, it's
determines whether your
stormwater.
lot is buildable or not.
Right.
So it's critical,
Oh,
that's
it's a
how I'm looking
stormwater
at it
report.
anyway.
I don't think you can reasonably expect an applicant to go out and test for that level of information throughout the entire site. But you could, I think, reasonably expect them to prepare a soils map
Yeah.
that indicates, a general.
Just give you the
guidance of
logs.
huh?
Provide the logs.
Pardon?
The test pit logs.
Well, if they did test pits.
Yeah, I mean, if you see a test pit, they should have the log there, right?
Oh, they would, but what I'm saying is.
If you don't see it, then you should worry.
For doing the yield plan. You're talking about incorporating this in the yield, how you.
Right, how
incorporate
you
the yield
determine,
plan.
yeah, how
Right.
many lots.
And so what I'm suggesting is that are they required to provide any kind of information addressing the issue of suitability for septic, i.e. soils?
Definitely
I mean,
soils.
just ultimately,
Yeah?
no one, I don't think anybody in their right mind would ever invest in a piece of property unless they're able to prove that they can take care of the septic system requirements. There was a parcel recently that a developer was proposing for 10 units, and they went out and did the test pitting, and they found out they could only support 2. that, when you get to that situation where, your groundwater's
care of
out, your
itself.
ledge and everything else. Now, today's technology for building septic systems,
Build amazing things.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can put a septic system in a lot more terrain, different, varying, difficult terrain than you today than you could 20 years ago.
Yeah, but what happens when there's ledge? I mean,
Well, I'm telling you, that's when they redesign something, they bring the
They'll do-
fill in, and, they terrace it. There's almost nowhere they can't put one of these things today and design for it.
So what you're
And
saying
if you
is
have
the
enough
process-
money, you can do anything you want.
So what you're saying, John, is the process naturally takes care
You
of
can put a
itself.
Tesla in it, in the
so there
space.
wouldn't be any harm putting it in, would it? If they're already gonna do it. That's how I'm looking at it. It's not an extra effort for them, because they're already gonna do it. So if it's in there, it's not gonna hurt anybody.
Well, you'd have to define, how many and where.
Okay, I'll look for it, because I have seen that, 1 per lot testing is. and if it's-
that is strictly not within our jurisdiction. In Massachusetts, that's your Board of Health.
That's correct.
It certainly
Yeah,
is, but
correct.
what do we get from the Board of Health?
I don't.
I saw that, is it yours that I saw that there's some kind of a write-off? We've never gotten anything.
It definitely is their jurisdiction. I think Tilly's question has to do with, approving a yield plan that says you can put 10 lots on it, when in fact the soils say you can't, because they can't get a septic system in. And while that is, I think, a legitimate question and concern, I think what I'm hearing John say is that the process naturally takes care of that. Let's say, worst case scenario is we approve a yield plan that says 10 lots. And then that's what they start to develop. Well, in order to get that project approved, they have to come back to us to get it final approved. They have to also show where the septic systems are gonna go. And so they may, if they find out that they can't do it,
Yeah.
then they can't do it.
Now,
Yeah.
and
And
this.
that's what I think John is saying, that it takes care of itself there.
Yeah, and then again, within this OSRD ordinance, further, the planning board may request further information to justify the determination of yield, including an approved wetland and resource delineation, soil testings, and percolation tests. So we can.
We
do-
can ask for it.
Yeah, we can require that
Yeah.
within the provisions of determining the actual yield. So that language is already in there.
That's in there.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
in there. Okay, good. So that is in there.
Okay.
53, 165, 53.
I'm getting to really get familiar with that.
John, yeah, but you are. John, is there anything else in
Me
this
too.
right now?
I think this is,
What's
I
that?
try to follow the wording here. I'm so glad we're finally getting to it.
We're gonna clean this up. That's what this is all about.
Because I try to match the process with what we wrote in language, and it just doesn't connect.
And then, the only other thing, Rob, is that I included in the staff report portion of this, just that definition, the existing definition of lot.
Yeah,
Which is
number 3 on
pretty
page 3.
extensive. And it does cover a lot of the terrain that you want to cover in defining what a lot is. So I didn't propose any changes to that.
I'm fine with that. Do you have any concerns about that definition of
What
lot?
page was that
It's on
okay on?
page 3, it's
There.
right here.
Yeah,
Okay.
page 3 of the staff report.
Oh, that's too wordy. Can you shorten the words?
That was already there.
Well, that's
Let's
existing.
shorten it.
Yeah.
That's existing.
It's kind of a masterpiece.
Let's not
Of
draw
indigenous-
a mustache on the,
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Of indigenous
when it's-
language in definition pertaining
Somebody run around-
exclusively to Georgetown.
I mean, it does work.
It does.
So I wouldn't want to necessarily rework it for the sake of reworking.
It's like the Mona Lisa of lot definitions.
But we're not like those other people, John.
That's
as you
right.
might have
That's
noticed.
for sure.
This is a very special town.
That's right. I fully agree. It's a great place. Who wouldn't want to live in Georgetown?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if everybody's amenable and if you'll hear it,
Tilly, are you all set?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'll move to approve the proposed amendments to Article 7, Open Space Residential Development as written, and to forward the same to the Board of Selectmen for inclusion as a zoning warrant article for the 2018 spring town meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and it's been seconded to approve the proposed amendments as written and read into the record, and to forward same to the Board of Selectmen for inclusion as a zoning warrant article for the 2018 spring town meeting. Any discussion?
But did you advertise?
I didn't mean as written, I meant
the
as corrected this
definition of the
evening.
zoning?
As corrected this evening.
Or did you just
As corrected
advertise
this
the
evening.
definitions
Got
of
that.
the OSRD?
No, everything,
You
Yeah.
included both?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Because I didn't hear that from the selectmen, that there was two.
Any more discussion? Seeing no more
My
discussion.
concern is what we discussed earlier tonight about driveways. And,
For you,
no, not for yield. No.
Okay.
No, not for yield.
this is for,
Just for the OSRD.
that's the OSRD, okay.
But that, I think that's gotta be part of another discussion, because we were heading off a cliff there.
The other thing is, that's a private, it's a private driveway, but it's really a private road. But because, and there's all this technical legalese involved with it, because it's a condominium development, that's a driveway, that's what the term is for it. It doesn't fit what our definition is of a driveway in the common
That's what I'm getting at.
understanding of what a driveway is.
And this is a,
That's the important part.
this is a newer kind of development than what this town has ever thought about.
But we do have a PUD, which was
So
prior.
this discussion though, does this discussion have anything to do with this motion that we have on the table?
No,
right now?
I apologize.
Okay, no, that's all
I
right, that's all right,
apologize.
that's
No,
all right.
no,
It's a
you're
great
right.
discussion, I'd love to get into it later, though.
Yep. So with that, no, any more discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 4 yes, 1 absent.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the public hearing for the OSRD amendments.
No, I'm not ready for it. I got another thing. I didn't get an answer to my making the home smaller.
Okay.
Are you gonna have
No,
another
that-
hearing?
No, that would be, I think we agreed before that is going to be another chapter. You know, that would be additional language that would have to be amended or included in the zoning ordinance, but it wasn't going to be part of this.
Why not? I wanted it to be this. I brought it up. I did the research on it. I found the bylaw and word for word, passed it in 2 meetings ago? What's wrong with it, guys?
Well, we just approved this. I guess I was thinking along the lines of that, my understanding from the last meeting, and this was just me, but I thought we talked about it, which you did bring it up, but that it was going to be a discussion in and of itself for another time, not for this revision of this OSRD, and that question is a very complex question that's going to, I think, take a lot of time to answer.
I disagree with it being complex. It's very simple.
I'm not prepared to start throwing out square footage requirements on developers in a market. I'm just not.
The principle
comfortable doing that.
in
It's a
itself
density thing.
is simple,
I know.
but hitting that right number,
I-
it's, everybody's gonna have,
It's micromanagement.
everybody's gonna have their own idea of what a small house, a reasonable house, a mid-sized house, everybody's gonna have a different idea. And Tilly, I don't think we have enough time between now and town meeting. But
To hash
let
that all
alone
out.
when the warrant's gonna close, I'm talking about now to town meeting, to
You know,
get enough
I
data.
understand you want it,
together.
you want to move it fast, and you want it to be perfect. Well, let me clue you in. When you do amendments, you're constantly amending it. So I feel, put it in. You're gonna put a maximum of 15,000 square feet. No, 1,500, I'm sorry, 1,500 for a cottage-sized home. It's a density bonus. It's a option for the developer to if he wants to do it, he has that choice. He has that option to gain another home. That doesn't have to be 1,500
So I
square feet.
hear what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. I'm of the opinion that I'm with Harry on this, and that I think it's going to take more time. Not that it's not important, but that it's going to take more time. And you and I disagree. I think it's a very complicated question. I think it's getting into real details, and I know you and I disagree about that. But I just think it's going to take time that needs to be separated from this right now, or this is never going to get done. That's my opinion. And Harry, how about you, Bob?
I agree.
So there's three, and
And you argued effectively your point at 2 meetings ago, that with something like this, you really do have to develop a rational nexus test for it. You have to really put the time into it, and as you said, you really may want to bring in, peer review. Yeah, people that, to really, it's its own study. We put a lot of time into just cleaning up this ordinance. That's all we did. We didn't
I don't think
recreate
you
the
even
wheel
cleaned
here.
it up enough.
We just clean the language up
Skimmed
so
it.
that so the average person can read it and understand it. I could not make heads or tails of what was going on with this thing. One of the most important things is if it's a condominium development now or a multifamily OSRD, we are the permit granting authority. It isn't a matter of where the language exists today, where, oh, wait a minute, they gotta go to the ZBA, then they gotta come back to the planning board, and then 2 paragraphs down is, oh, the planning board's the permit granting authority for the multifamily. None of it made any sense. It just needed to be cleaned up, drastically cleaned up, and that's all we did. We didn't change, really, the
So
interpretation of it or anything.
I guess what I'm getting at is that I think there are 3 members right now that are saying, that your question is legit, but it needs to be in a separate.
All right. Yeah, well, I want to remind you guys that recently you voted for that housing production plan. And that's one out of maybe 5 that said the same thing. We don't have a diversity of houses. How many years? From 2001, I think they started doing these production plans. And the same thing comes out. I mean, how much more time do you, God almighty, do you need?
I sympathize with what you're saying, Tilly, and I understand what you're saying. Better to put something out there
Yeah.
and have something later to tweak. But in this case, I think that's not true, only because it's gonna be tied to a number. And we can't just throw a number out, have it not work, then go back and change the number, have that not work. That's not gonna be how you hit this. If
The
you
maximum
if you
number,
hit
that's not
this,
the number.
you're gonna
Could be
hit
any
this.
number or lower than that. Maximum number.
What do you want to say? 3,500s? I mean,
No,
that's
no,
the whole
no,
thing.
no,
You-
1,500.
Until you have some folks here that are actually in the development business, giving us a little bit of guidance, saying, "Gee, you know what? We might be able to make that work." Then I don't think you're going to have anybody biting. You're throwing a hook in the water.
So
with
it's how they don't bite.
guess-
So
I guess-
what's the harm?
I guess
They
what
don't
I-
bite.
I guess what I'd like to do is, I think we have talked about it right now, and we're not gonna resolve it right now. That's for sure, and it's 9 o'clock.
And the warrant
and-
closes on
and-
February 26th.
And what a,
Mm-hmm.
we've already made, there's 3 here that are saying, let's put this to another item, and what I'd like to do is come back and take a vote now.
When
to
is the,
just
when is
formalize
the,
this
when is
motion that was
the
made.
flooring closed?
It's in March, but
Yeah. It's in March, you got another month.
yeah, but you know what? If I could help this discussion
Well, I don't-
along just a little
I
bit.
don't know if it's necessary,
All right.
because what I have right now is what's on the table is we've had the discussion, and now it's time to take a vote to close.
I stand by my motion, Mr. Chairman.
And it was seconded, and so, no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
One, no.
So 3 yes, 1 no.
The hearing is
1
closed.
absent. The hearing is closed. Okay, so, and Tilly, I just want to say, and with what Harry's saying, it's not an important piece of discussion. That's not what this is about right now. I don't know when and how we tackle something like that, but you know, if you wanna put it on the next agenda as a line item for discussion, we should do that.
I have to ask myself, Mr. Chairman, is hitting that number more important right now and getting a number on there into the OSRD more important than recreational marijuana district, recreational marijuana bylaw?
The thing about it
We're gonna
is,
be busy
Harry,
here, kids.
What do you mean?
you
We're
know,
gonna be busy.
if you have any clue that it's for myself and I'm on my own agenda, chalk it, because there's no way I'm leaving my home. But I tell you, I have watched people leave Georgetown that have lived there as long as I have, can't find a downsized home.
Your point is well taken.
Yeah,
Phil.
no one's
Nobody's
arguing.
arguing
And
the point.
that's, you know, when you're elderly, the time is short.
I'm elderly. I know.
Yeah, you just retired.
Can I,
Be 70 in 2
So,
weeks.
planning office.
You look better than me.
Oh, man, we have another item, guys. We have East Main Street.
Good stuff.
I forgot.
What do we have?
He's Maine.
I thought
East
it was
Main
on the
Street.
agenda.
Yep.
I was
So,
hoping
Good,
you'd
somebody
miss
explain
one.
that to me, what we're doing.
out of here, guys.
Please,
I think,
explain it to me.
John, can you
Yeah.
give a summary? And if not, I will.
yes, no, I'll help this along here. We got progress as-built plans from the applicant being the recreation.
Park and Rec.
Yeah, Park and Rec. Those plans were hand-delivered by me to Larry Graham today for his peer review to begin. What I'm suggesting is, that's where we're at. Does this board want to wait to take formal action on what has been submitted upon receipt of Larry Graham's peer review of the
And what
progress
action,
that-
what
Formal
action is that?
B?
Well, the town is seeking to open the park in a limited manner this spring, to be able to utilize the field and possibly the dog park, as the park exists today, as it's been constructed today. So, leading up to this meeting, progress as-built plans were submitted, meaning that certain elements of the park have been constructed. Certain elements of the park have been constructed in accordance with the approved site plan. In these progress plans, they show proposed parking area, but it's not constructed. The main parking area is not constructed. There's a secondary parking area that was explained to me by conservation agent that it was supposed to be for handicap access only, handicap parking, and that was the
the dog
parking
park.
area down by the park, dog park. But approaching the field, the large parking area, the primary parking area, was going to be to the left, the west of the access road. That doesn't
Skate
exist. So where we're at is that the Park and Rec wants to open up the park, again, in a limited manner this spring for the spring recreation season. We're trying to work as cooperatively as possible with this sought-after opening. Now, we sent the plans were sent to Larry for his review, so he'll go out to the site. And just to,
And those plans went out today.
yes, and so he'll be able to go out there, utilize those plans, and mark the plans up, compare them with what was approved, and give us a qualified peer review of what the status is out there, what needs to be done, if any corrections need to be done, relative to getting that park possibly open for the spring.
So-
Do we know when they say limited use, do we know what the boundaries of that are?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's on the plans, and so in the packet are the two, is the as-built drawings, and.
And I have the
what Larry
full-size
Graham-
ones too, if
what Larry
people do
Graham's
want them.
going to do is he's going to come back with a report, correct me if I'm wrong, he's gonna
Yeah.
come back with a report to the board, which is gonna say, here's what's been built, it matches the plan, it doesn't match the plan, and here's what has not been built. And is he going to go so far as to make a recommendation, whether in his professional opinion, it could be opened and health, safety, welfare issues would be met? So he will lead us with that as well. And that comes to the board at the next meeting.
Bless you.
That we have between now and then to review it ourselves,
Mhm.
come prepared with our own comments, and conclude with Larry's and our comments so that it gets put into one final document, which then
We can send over to the Board of
to the
Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen. We're gonna need to talk, for example, to town council. There's a fair bit of, there are a fair number of questions in here, but one example is, how do we legally, Harry brought this up last time, how do we legally approve a partial project when it was a special permit for this entire project? And what does that mean for the remainder of the project that isn't built? Does that mean that thing is now null and void and they have to come back for a new? So those questions, I don't know what the answers are. I'm not comfortable with anything but town council helping out on that.
Yeah, I didn't find, in looking through this, I didn't find a clear definition to me of what limited use
Right.
was.
And it's
so,
not-
I mean, what do they have in mind in terms of limited use?
It's a great question.
That's
That's a great question.
They want to use the field. I haven't heard any talk
Where
about
do they
the
want
dog
people to
park.
park?
Well, that's part of that, that's part
The
of.
parking would
issue.
be the issue, as far as I
We
can
may,
see.
I mean,
You can park
we
there.
may end up saying, as a planning board, we cannot recommend opening this up until,
Got it.
for example, parking is addressed. Or we may say, we recommend it's open because we think that parking can be handled in a certain way.
All right, fair enough, good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and I did go over this with Steve relative to conservation issues.
He's got a lot of issues, I'm sure you
He
guys saw.
he has a lot of issues, but he did leave open the possibility when I was talking to him today that, as a temporary measure, parking for vehicles could be provided for within that dog park area, which is already set up, and that there could be overlap parking off of the gravel base that's there now.
Yeah, well, and so we will.
As long as nobody's
as
going
one
into the
board-
wetlands.
As one board member, I'll have to be convinced and be able to see that. Okay,
Yes,
that-
right, right.
Yeah.
I would just add that, basically, we are just starting today with our review process of this as-built plan. We're just starting today because it was just today or yesterday that the plan was determined to be final. So we haven't held up anybody, we're trying to do our best to move this thing along, but we just got this final today or yesterday. It immediately went out to Larry Graham for his review. We're doing the best we can. It's gonna be really hard to get this all wrapped up in time for them to open it by spring, but we'll do the best we can.
I'm on board.
If we agree to this.
Wouldn't town council agree that the only way that this could move forward right now is if the parking lot were to ask for a modification?
Well, that question,
The as-built to be complete.
I think that question needs to go to town council sooner rather than later.
Well, can we ask now?
Yeah, we
Are
can.
they gonna do another engineering
see-
plan to modify it? I don't think so.
Well, the problem is, Tilly, we're in the position where Larry Graham is going to enumerate everything that is shown on the approved plan, but has not yet been built. And I mean, there's a ton of stuff down there that hasn't been built. They ran out of money.
But how can you do a modification without a engineering plan of the modifications? It would be another step.
It would be
Delaying
the
it.
as-built. It would be the as-built, basically saying, what you have here is the modification.
Right.
And, planning board, you've done a review, you've had your engineer go out there. Do you think that this is complete enough? Do you consider this complete? If you consider this complete, approve it,
So-
and that it could open.
So would the planning board be willing to ask John to contact town council to initiate this conversation and get it going?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to make that motion. Motion to authorize the town planner to contact town council
I
and
thought Mike
initiate.
already had discussed that with town council. From,
I don't know, but I want to hear
Yeah.
from,
And initiate the steps that we need to take to,
to find out how.
To
we do
find
it,
out how-
and
whether
if, how and
modification-
if we can do this, John.
yeah. If we have a legal course to do it with.
Any, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and it's been seconded. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 4 yes, one absent. So that takes care of Park and Rec project for now, and Planning Office and member of public concerns, 2 items. John, could you, not now, but come back to us with a proposed schedule for when it would be a good time to do your year review? Okay? Okay? All right. And the last is, I want to let the board know that I will be emailing you sometime within probably the beginning of next week, a letter which is which is going to go to the selectmen, and it's about the moving forward to try to prepare a plan for lighting, town lighting. So I want to send it to you all so you have it well in advance of our next meeting, so you can review it and then come to the meeting and we can talk about it, okay? I just wanted to give you that notice. So
Quick
that was it.
question. And under
How is-
member,
oh, excuse me, go
Sorry?
ahead. Sorry.
just under member concern, at this point, the warrant's gonna be closing soon at some point. We're hearing some different dates out there and everything. Where are we with respect to, public hearings for, we're going to need to do a zoning overlay district, and we're going to have to do a special permit bylaw. Where are we for advertising the hearing for that?
Yeah. You want to go ahead?
No, for
No,
what? I don't know.
it's for the,
Oh, I'm sorry, recreational marijuana. I'm very sorry.
Oh,
So for
okay.
recreational marijuana overlay district and the recreational marijuana bylaw.
yeah.
Right.
We do have a placeholder, right up to the 11th hour
Okay.
for this proposed amendment, set of amendments to
Okay.
make it onto the town warrant. And the public hearings to be held, the proper public hearings. Copeland and Page is still working on it.
Okay.
And hopefully cannabis guidelines come out, the final guidelines come out within a week or two.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we can move forward with the whole thing.
Do we need to authorize the town planner to advertise the public hearings for those because those are zoning.
Yeah.
One is an overlay and one is a bylaw. So to advertise
Get
the
that ball
hearings?
going.
Tempest Future. yeah.
Well, we have to
Yeah.
get it going. I mean,
Yeah.
even if the Cannabis Control Commission drags their feet a little bit more, we could always open and begin deliberations and start taking public comments with respect to the overlay district,
That's good.
which could be,
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
know, so many
Yeah.
things, has
Are you
many
going
aspects
to
to it.
identify the overlay? You have to identify that in the hearing.
Absolutely, well,
Well,
let's.
I mean, you're gonna make up your mind before you have the hearing.
No,
You
what,
have to advertise
what I
it.
would propose is you would show, you would use the hearing process as a deciding process. You'd open the hearing, you'd take a clone picture of the medical
Right,
marijuana
yeah.
district, and through public comment and public officials and through deliberation,
Modify, yep.
we modify it.
Yep.
Because that's
So
how
you're gonna
I see a
use the
public
same
hearing.
Medical, you're gonna use the same district as the medical?
I
As a
would
model.
think that it would begin there and then
Well, that's what
take
he's gonna
public
have to
comment.
advertise. He's gonna have, you can't just arbitrarily say if you're gonna plan a district for it without saying where the districts are. You got 8,300 people. You're gonna come, where are you gonna have it? You gotta say more.
The only possible change to it, because there is a medical marijuana dispensary area in the downtown area.
Mm-hmm.
And that may not be an area that meets muster for the
Correct.
townspeople.
Yeah.
Hey, they
So
already
that-
have vapes going there, right?
Well,
Yeah.
Right at the head of it.
Go ahead.
Right there.
yeah,
Right,
so in any event.
tip of the
So
spear.
anyway,
The tip of the spear, baby.
yeah, it may be restricted to the present highway area one that's in place for the medical.
I wouldn't even begin to
Yeah.
conjecture.
But to Tilly's question though, I mean, can we advertise a public hearing without being more specific?
I would suggest that what you do is you advertise that the proposed district is on, is a clone of the the medical marijuana district, and then that's the advertisement. That's what goes out in the public record, that
As
would
the
be on
starting
file.
point of the conversation.
That would be on file in the planning office, you do your hearings, and then
what's still
we'll modify
pending-
it.
Yeah, and what is still pending is a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen on this matter. That was going to take place, as we thought, earlier this year.
Great.
But we're just
They
in
can drop
abeyance
in-
right now.
They can drop in the first night of the hearing.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, no, Harry,
Motion
if you,
to authorize John
Yeah, and if you have any,
for the aforementioned?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and it's been seconded to authorize the town planner to go ahead and advertise as discussed. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Well, to get anything on town meeting, he's gotta do it. He's gotta post it.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks before the town meeting, complete your hearings.
gotta fill out Form.
Yeah, you gotta,
Absolutely.
so you.
Get them in multiple. You should have like a whole book of them.
You're gonna have to do that tomorrow.
Jan was really impressed with the one I filled out before I typed it all out. It's the first one she ever got typed.
Any more discussion, folks? Motion to adjourn?
We just have this stuff here to sign.
Do that.
Okay, we'll do that after.
Yeah.
We'll all sign that.
And could I just make one
Yeah,
quick?
please.
one? You know, the issue with the housing, and we are in a housing boom, and there's a lot of modifications going on with sizes of houses that are being built, tons of multifamily happening. There's a lot taking place, a great deal taking place of the potential future development out off of exit 54. So, there's a lot that's taking place right now that's going to probably, in the not too distant future, end up producing more affordable housing, more mixed housing, everything to that effect.
So this is all stuff that you're kind of hearing in the wind.
Now, well, just to bring you up to speed, the town did recently receive a $50,000 economic development grant that was provided by legislation that was passed.
And how did they get that grant?
Through the efforts of Senator Tarr and working effectively with the Board of Selectmen. And then we have a technical assistance grant that's specific to the National Ave property, and that was applied for with Mike and I working with the Board of Selectmen.
Great job.
And that is actually going to be awarded this Friday at 3 p.m. in Shrewsbury. So Mike and I think a couple of other people are going out.
Thank you very
Great,
much.
yeah.
Great job. Good job.
It's not gonna be the 40B, it's gonna be what, a 40R? What is it gonna be?
Well, no, a technical assistance grant, that's whereby mass development, real estate experts will help us develop a plan, you know, the highest and best use for that. We're also, and I was part of this tour a week ago, Thursday, for that whole area, 100-acre area of exit 54 becoming designated as a priority development area. Previously had the designation of priority development site and a 43R, but the newest designation would be a priority development area, and we're the only relatively small town in the region that would have that
Because
designation.
we rock.
Well, let's hope something happens there. Is that 1,000 feet from the medical marijuana? Because you can't have it that close to a residential.
300 feet,
See,
yeah, 300 feet, yeah.
yeah. But
But there's just a lot happening, and, you know, we're trying to focus in on downtown to maybe overcome the septic limitation that's down there.
Well, great.
Yeah. Now, one more thing, the Economic Development Committee, we're meeting next Tuesday night on the second floor, and we have two gentlemen coming in with proposals that would provide for multifamily mixed use within the CB district, which is the smallest commercial district. It really comprises Town Hall, the CVS complex, and Crowley's across the street. And it runs south of Library Street, but those are single-family houses with a lot of wetland, bordering wetlands. But what's happening is they're having trouble occupying the second floor with commercial businesses. And they think they'd, be better off if they were converted to apartments. So mixed use is allowed in the CA district, but it's not allowed in the CB district. And, this one developer would like for us as a town to propose a zoning amendment that would allow mixed use in that district. So they're coming in Tuesday. And that may spur the Economic Development Committee to request the planning board to hold a public hearing for another possible zoning amendment.
Boy, another one.
Yeah.
Good thing we closed the one we had going tonight.
Yeah, but looking at these these annual reports, some years you had a lot of activity with zoning amendments, and it's only been in recent years that it's been dried up kind
Right,
of.
right.
Then one other issue that's coming up. Another developer is going to be coming into our economic development meeting, and that person's interested in, the limitation in the downtown area should be more tied in with the septic system capacity limitation of properties and parking, but not so much the present restriction, which calls for 10,000 square feet of land per unit.
CBA.
Yeah, you're not going to end up, that's the requirement down there. Well, you're not gonna end up with any affordable housing, any housing really, with any decent density, creating a development potential with a rate of return without increasing the density on a per lot basis, restricted to what the septic capacity.
That's next Tuesday night, you said?
Yeah, next Tuesday at 7. So that's another thing we'll be talking about. And it's all a matter of trying to make the downtown area more viable for residential development and as well as commercial. We have to, keep those
That CB,
buildings occupied and, spur on new development so the whole area becomes, more sustainable.
well, that CB area, I think that infringes on Elm Street
Yeah.
all the way around, so. Will it be televised so that the neighbors can see? There's a lot of neighbors around there.
It's for discussion purposes at this point. It'll be televised when we're dealing with it.
Yeah, I think that would help.
Yeah.
This over here, John?
Yes. And did you guys find? Did you guys find the document that needs to be signed by a majority of the board
It
too?
wasn't, yeah, it wasn't clear exactly where, so I didn't sign it yet. It's underneath.
Yeah. And then if anybody wants full-size copies of the rec plan, you can take a copy of those.
Just kill me.
We're gonna get different ones, so wait
Is that
and
what
see.
you said? Just kill it, just kill it. Motion, Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn the planning board meeting of
Was
February
seconded.
14th,
All-
2018.
I second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You in favor?
Aye,
We
Chihuahua.
adjourned at 9:26, 7.